All right. We're 2 minutes to show, but you can see this is a typo-squatting attack that was brought to my attention yesterday. So feel free to follow along at home if you like, and I will wait 1 more minute to see who dials in to my very first Twitch. I'm sure it will be painfully awkward, but you know, that's part of the fun of trying new things. So. And good to see you too, Brian. Been far too long. All right. Well, I'll start with talking about this. I know we're a minute early, but I'm impatient. So people who like to dig into malware love this one nice little open source website called Malware Bazaar. And as a way to de-stress, I've been doing some malware analysis work lately. In order to figure out, like, find new samples of malware, I go to Malware Bazaar, and it's got all these lovely things here where you can type in, like, tag Mako if you're looking for Mako malware. I guess I need to make this a little. Let me scroll down so you can actually see what I'm seeing. So you can see Mako. I saw this one that had this that was uploaded 3 days ago, that had this really curious tag called Homabrews.org. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a really cool thing to check out a little more closely. See what this program does. Now, it's allegedly Amos Steeler. I actually disagree with that assessment, but that's a different story. But basically, from here, you can download samples. The samples are set up with a zip password. The zip password is infected. I would normally say, if you're going to be doing this, to make sure you're doing this in a VM. I happened to blow away all my Lima VMs earlier this week because I was having a hardware failure. I dropped my laptop and I wanted to back up everything, but I needed to fit everything onto the backup drive that I had, which was only half the size of the disk. So cleared up my VMs. Long story short, I just did this live locally. The nice thing about checking out malware on a Unix machine is that generally you still have to chmod it, but especially if you're doing stuff with AI agents, asking AI agents to check out malware, it may chmod it for you and run it for you. Danger, Will Robinson, like having random malware samples on your machine is a recipe for disaster. Okay, are we unmuted now? Sorry. This is one of those microphones that if you tap on the microphone in a weird spot, it mutes or unmutes. It's got this like capacitive toggle that I hate. There's probably a way to turn it off. I don't know how to do that. But anyways, looks like my video is still weird, but we're going to keep going. Okay. So anyways, from that Malware Bazaar record that I was just looking at, it said homabrews.org. So I took a guess that that was where it was from, and I went to the URL, and voila, you see the Homebrew website. And this looks really familiar. If you've ever been to the Homebrew website, probably most of you have, it looks like an exact copy, but you'll notice the URL is strangely off. It's got that familiar one-liner to curl bash install, that Homebrew really has, but you'll notice this URL is also a little different. So we're going to start here. I'm going to start in, I guess, two places. Let's see, it's brew.sh. Okay, so you can see there's the legitimate page. Here's the illegitimate page. Pretty dang similar. Basically the same. So I'm going to start by diffing the artifacts that I can fetch. And so let's make a little home for me to play in a terminal. We'll do it in this one. All right, so we'll say brew. All right, what could possibly go wrong there? All right, so I'm going to start by fetching the actual website of Homebrew. Let's see, brew. All right, so that should be able to work. If I did this wrong, I get a brew HTML. Cool. And let me do the bad page and see what's different. If I can find my focus again. Let's see. Okay, cool. I can just do that. All right. So the other one was homabrew.sh, and I actually cannot click right now, so whatever. All right. So homabrew.sh. All right, so we'll call it bad brew. Oh, no, it's org. Failed to confirm the legitimacy. All right, did I get the right page? I don't feel like I did. Oh, Homabrews, that's what it is. Okay. This is why you always cut and paste when you're doing malware analysis. All right, so now I've got these two pages. They're almost the exact same bytes. So we're going to do a comparison just of the pages, see what's different. So what did this bad brew introduce for us? Looks like it did some analytics changes, but let's see. All right, so going to the top. All right, what do we see as different? Some meta tags missing, not a big deal. Some CDN-y stuff. All right, so there's our different URL for installing Homebrew. That's not that exciting. Install boring stuff right now. It looks mostly, oh wait, here's something interesting. It changed. Oh, okay, that looks like it just did some text formatting. All right, it's effectively the same. Maybe this anchor.js is different, that they're doing some analytics, but no, I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that part. What I am going to look at, oh yeah, that's true. I could do it through XML. I probably don't have it installed, to be honest, but so next, I'm actually going to go for the install URLs here, because that's really what I'm honestly interested in. I was just hoping maybe I would see some cool clues from the HTML, but nothing jumped out at me. So if I run out of clues, I'll go back. But let's see. Okay, so bad install.sh. All right, so we got bad install. And then let me get the actual real URL here. All right, cool. Now this is where things are going to get really exciting. I lose my colorization. So this is just the shell script. And we can see from the color coding that there is some interesting stuff going on here. You can see that it is asking for the user's password to install it. Very clever. This is a great Mac OS command that will actually authenticate and validate your command. And it's one of the easiest ways from a Mac OS command line to validate a password without that works in a way that doesn't require admin privileges. Like if you were to do sudo, you need admin for that. But auth only, bam, you're just validating the authentication and you are capturing I guess it echoes the password. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it does. It base 64 encodes the password that you typed in above. And then, dun dun dun, there's the dropper. It is grabbing this brew agent URL that we will check out next. So this is a very classic dropper one-liner. Whenever you see curl chmod and then execute, it's almost certainly bad news. That said, I have actually seen this in certain Docker builds as well. So it tries to enter sudo. Is that what is capital S? Standard in. Read it. Okay. So it's echoing the password to sudo, but is it actually doing anything? I don't feel like it's actually doing anything other than validating. Yeah, it's with the -v, it's validating that you actually have sudo access. So it'll print what your sudo privileges are. I think that's what it's ended up doing. All right. Whoop. Don't capture my password there. No, okay. I'll have to check. That is not sudo -v, just validate. Okay, validate the credentials. Okay, so that makes it really easy for them to, okay. So this basically makes it so the rest of the shell script can use sudo safely with cached privileges. It has echoed the password to it via standard in. It is authenticated, and future sudo attempts should work. So cool. Let's see. I'm guessing this looks like it's based on an old version of the Homebrew installer. Is my guess from these changes here. So I'm going to keep going down a little bit. And then I'm scanning through this pretty quickly because I'm actually also going to follow it up here with a tool that I've been working on. Many of you know that I created a tool called Malcontent that did malware analysis focusing on differential analysis. And it was basically a pile of Yara queries. Over the last week, wrote a new one called Dissect that uses AST analysis and reverse engineering tools like Radar2 and Risen, and so we'll get to use that here in a moment. But so one of the things it'll actually do is there's a diff mode where you can tell it two files, brew, let's see, brew. All right, and here's where it might just catastrophically fail. So it'll tell you the differences between so this is basically for detecting a supply chain attack. It'll tell you the behavioral differences between two programs, for the most part, regardless of what language those programs are written in. It is designed to work well with polyglot programs. So here you can see that it has captured basically all those things that we just captured by our eyes. I did miss, I wonder. So the user enumeration, that could be a false positive, or maybe it may actually do that. We'll check in a second. This is to get a list of users in macOS because you can't check Etsy password. Cool, it caught the domain name here. That was interesting, that it modifies file permissions, and that it executes sudo. So that basically validates what we saw with our eyes. And so now comes a little bit more fun in what is this this binary? What is this brew agent? So we're going to go look again at the, let's look at that one-liner here. Bad install. All right. So we're only going to run that first part here for obvious reasons. And I'm going to do a -vvv just to see if it tells us anything about the host or anything. So it looks like it's a Let's Encrypt host, started on January 13th. And what else is it telling us? It's Nginx, and it's an octet stream, and it was last modified 15 days ago. The binary, it could lie, of course, but so this is telling us that this attack has been live for 15 days. One of the cool things we can do now is we can go back to this host name, Homabrews, and we can look at the certificate transparency database. Now we can actually check the SSL certificate too, but this will tell us all the other host names that are registered within a particular domain that have had an SSL certificate granted for it, and kind of a looking back history of where this came from. I'm also going to type this look up on VirusTotal, see if it knows anything about this domain. Oh, okay. When I looked at this the other day, there wasn't much for Google definitely didn't declare it as phishing, so that's interesting. This is a little weird that, I think I just have to type a domain. Oops. That's where I went wrong. All right. crt.sh is a little slow, but is very useful. So on here, on VirusTotal, often if you click community, you can see people basically bad-mouthing a particular domain, but there's nothing here right now. So you can see that the domain's first SSL certificate was generated on the 13th, so 15 days ago, and that it has 3 host names. The naked domain, raw, which is where the payload is from, and www, and they're all going to the same place. So nothing exciting there. So I'm going to go back to doing a little malware analysis. I'm actually going to start a little bit of invasive scanning as well. Make sure I have that domain name right and I'm not just scanning an innocent person. Again, this is why you always copy and paste instead of, and my click bug is back. All right. Nuclei is a great little project, open source project for security scanning. I doubt it's going to pick up anything, but it'll at least run in the background. And it didn't find what is it? Oh, I have the wrong invocation. Nuclei-h, target. That's what it is. You would think that it would work with -t, but nope, they want -target. There is a short command line, I think it's -i, but so this is going to try 9,600 different security attacks on it. Well, I shouldn't say attacks. It's really just doing audits. I doubt it'll come up with anything, but one of the things that sometimes comes up with is finding files that are sitting in the root directory of a web server that are also more malware to inspect. So anyways, let's go back to the fun part. So this time I'm going to do things in a little bit of the opposite order, and I'm going to use dissect to get an idea of what, actually, I'm going to first walk through strings. So this is something that sysadmins have been using for decades to see what a particular program is. And we're going to use it for, where's our script? Did I curl it into the wrong place? Oh, brew agent. Okay, fine, temp brew agent. All right, nice. Okay, so back to strings. So strings has been around since, I don't know, probably sometime in the 80s. It will dump all of the string-looking material that it finds. Unfortunately, it's kind of, I would say it's particularly annoying for Mako binaries, but here you can see all of the libc calls that it's doing, which is great. I recently wrote a replacement for strings called stng, kind of a vibe-coded Rust experiment, but it actually works really awesomely in that it filters out the junk and it looks for automatically looks for XOR keys, which are very popular with DPRK malware. Longer XOR keys to hide the goodies. And so we're going to kind of walk through first what we see visually, and then we'll do a little bit more analysis with dissect. So let's get up to the very top of this binary. There's a lot going on here. So, all right, almost to the top. I see all these functions. All right, cool. Unfortunately, so one of the things that this does, that STNG does, is it does use Radar 2 or Ryzen to do some reverse engineering to actually find the real strings and real function calls. You can see it did find this XOR key. So let's kind of parse through and see what's interesting about this. One of the things that stands out is red flag for me is whenever I see anything that links to both Cocoa, which is the macOS native, next step based library framework. Cocoa has its own built-in support for fetching URLs. So whenever you see Cocoa and then libcurl, that's a red flag to me. Libcurl is used very commonly by attackers because it is so portable, whereas Cocoa is not portable at all. So for people making malware across Linux, Windows, and Mac, they're going to use libcurl. No question about it. So, or some of them actually build their own HTTP stacks, which, crazy town. All right, so we see a bunch more functions. Nothing exciting here that stands out. And all right, so here's one thing that stands out. Whenever you see, so this is an alphabet here. For people who, big fans of base 64, you'll recognize that these are all of the valid characters in a base 64 string. So this is telling you that this program likely has its own built-in base 64 implementation. It's not going to execute an external command line. That's very easily detectable. And the base 64 algorithm is very basic. So they've got their own. I would call this a yellow flag if I saw it in malware. This is kind of curious. So usually you don't see programs that have /applications in the binary mentioned. They usually don't hard code it. But it's interesting that you can see both the Unix-based path and the old Mac-based colon type paths that you would see. Don't really see those very much. DS store. This is the macOS metadata files. This says to me that somebody is doing probably rooting around a file system. Dev random, not that interesting. These you see with a bunch these C-based formatting strings for paths. You see a bunch in malware, particularly DPRK. All right, this path says to me that it's a web This is probably a web URL that it's fetching. IO platform UUID. This is looking up, and you can, is there no man page for you? Okay, well, suffice to say, this is looking up a unique ID for your system on macOS. We've got another alphabet here, which says that there's probably some sort of obfuscation going on. But we're going to keep going here. See a bunch of these NS things are Cocoa. Let's see. I'm going to kind of move along here. Interesting to see Swift written here. That may probably does indicate that this malware was written in Swift. I don't know much about Swift malware, to be quite honest. This might be the first one that I've analyzed. So it's a very unique looking C string. I wonder what that is about. I don't know what percent C is used for. Is that just characters? I don't know. Let's see. Sprintf. What is? All right, anyone in the audience know what percent C is used for? Is it for characters? Like a single character? I don't know. It's possible it's not even oh, okay. Int converted to a unsigned character. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. So this is an interesting one. I don't know what it's doing here. I'm guessing it is coming up with a file name. We'll keep going a little bit. So often, you'll notice I still haven't stepped into a actual real reverse analysis tool yet. I like to get the lay of the land first, running strings, to kind of to know what to look for. Oftentimes with reverse engineering, it helps to know which functions that you want to tap into. For instance, like classic on macOS malware is look to see if it calls the libc system call and then hook into the, basically reverse from there, see what are the arguments to the system call. So one of the things that when it Zored, it found a base 64 string. I don't know what that is yet. It is unreadable. You can see the hex stuff there. This is more Objective-C garbage. All right, so here we get to some of the libraries that it calls into. So it's getting the time, not a big deal. When you curl easy, these are red flags for me when I see, especially again on Mac OS. This is definitely the easiest way to use curl. So it's copying files. I don't know much about the fcopy file. Oops. Let's see. Fcopy file is just copy a file and or the metadata. Cool. So it's just literally just like a copy file. All right. Get the current host name. Work with internet addresses. Look up the time. Look up directories. Create threads. So whenever I see redir and opendir, you can see it up here. Whenever I see those in a malware, that is usually telling me that this is going to be a stealer, that it is going to be traversing the file system, looking for data to exfiltrate. Set socket options. All right, so now this is a standard export in every Mako. All right, there's all the stuff. Again, all the things it's importing, we actually kind of just read through it. You'll notice it sleeps, and I wonder about that. Often with malware attacks, the program will sleep for a period of time to avoid dynamic analysis. So, for instance, many supply chain attacks in the past. If you look back at other DPRK attacks, but also other like Russian sourced attacks, they'll sit idle for a random period of time. It might be 10 days, it might be 10 hours before doing the malicious activity. And this is a nice way to get past sandboxes or researchers who are just, poking around and listing the system calls that are executing in real time, which is still a great idea because a lot of malware does not have any sort of time delay. So entitlements, these are typical, always see them, and I lost my mouse again. Let me see if I Alt-Tab into it. Do I get it back? Okay. All right, so we're here. We see all the same stuff that we saw again, repeated. So here is where things get a little bit more interesting again. Whenever you see alphabets like this, that's usually telling me that there is going to be a substitution cipher somewhere. It is looking up the home directory, and it is capturing the screen. So that's pretty cool. I'm betting it is capturing the screen and then dumping it to one of those dynamically generated file names that we saw up ahead. This particular string was hidden by the XOR that we figured out, and I'll talk about how we figured that out in just a moment. This is the major red flag that you are looking for, that this is going to be a data stealer. It is going to traverse the file system, look for these files. Unfortunately, my tool is truncating the output. It shouldn't, but there are typically when you see this, it's going to be a lot of documents or crypto keys, sometimes SSH keys, things like that, that it is going to upload those to probably a URL with one of these paths. It's looking for Ethereum store keys. Cool. Again, that was Zord. And there was the actual XOR key, the 31-byte key that we found. So how did we get to all this stuff? How do I know that that XOR key is actually what we were wanting to look at? Before I do that, I'm actually going to check if there's anything else I'd missed. According to Dissect. Oops. Again, this is a new tool, so it may be buggy. But you can see that it did capture a lot of what we had discussed, file system traversal, the extensions. I mean, basically this tool is me taking all of the tribal knowledge from my brain of looking at malware and trying to apply rules to it. I did miss that it is actually doing some authentication stuff. That's unusual. Probably prompting for a password and authenticating as root or something. What else could I have missed? Here you see the hardware fingerprinting. Let's see. It says there's a Packer. I don't know about that. It did find the XOR pattern. That is kind of a false positive. All right. So moving along, now we're going to talk about actually analyzing it, and we're going to try. So I'm gonna go ahead and just fire up Gemini and see what it has to say about this malware. Now you can learn to use Radar 2 or Risen by hand, but it has the most esoteric text interface that I can imagine. Like, it almost feels like it almost feels like writing assembly code, and you'll see what I mean here. I do heartily encourage you to, like, if you really want to get more into reverse analysis, Binary Ninja is a really cool tool that is definitely easier to use. But the nice thing about Risen and Radar 2, Risen is a fork of Radar 2, is that they are easily automated from a command line and they're open source. So my tools do call into that for doing the data analysis. So if I just say reverse engineer, what is it? Brew agent and tell me its capabilities. We'll see with Radar 2. I believe this is a Zorkey and exfiltrates data. I'm giving it a little bit of an extra hint here just to speed it along. We'll see if I have enough quota here. I could use Claude Code for this as well. Oh, okay. So we're going to switch to, sorry, I don't pay for the big quota on Google. So here we can actually see, you can learn from it on, okay. So here you see an example of a command line, and we'll run this separately here to give you an idea. So this is literally just dumping all the function calls that we saw. This is nothing new. It's probably going to dump all the strings here in a moment as well. But basically what I'm going to try to get out of it is, hey, I noticed curl easy calls tell me which URLs give it a little hint here about curl. So there it found the setopt. And so you can steal all these wonderful command lines for Radar 2. And there are some great guides online also. I am not an expert at that. I can definitely say I am fairly lazy and generally use this as a last-ditch effort, or used it as a last-ditch effort until I found LLMs I could cheat with. So it is going to try to, let's see. It is trying to figure out what the Zor is about here. Now, if I gave it the Zor key, it would probably help it along a little bit. So let's see if we can find it again. All right, so allegedly the key is not displayed. Well, that's weird. All right, I got a bug to investigate later, but let's see how it's working here. So it is basically just trying to brute force reverse engineer this binary through all the assembly code, looking for Zor moves, and trying to basically trace the path that called into curl easy. And hopefully it'll get there in a moment. Oh, hey, look at that. It actually caught some things that I did not notice before. I think there are multiple Zor keys in this program, which is unusual. So I see this lock file. I see this thing to remove the quarantine bit from files. I see this index PHP. I see this content type. So it's actually doing more than I had when I first took a look at this, what I knew. So that's kind of exciting. We'll see if it is able to generate random Python code. I will say that in my experience, Gemini is much better at reverse engineering than writing code. It actually is pretty darn good at understanding security traits of a program. So, but look at this. It's doing this thing with Finder. What is it doing? Is that actually something that it found? It looks like it is. Yeah, huge string here, running OSA script. I'm a little confused on what this is actually doing. Is it using Finder to traverse the file system? Set end, look for the item. Repeat. Like, I don't actually understand what it's doing other than navigating a file system. All right, but let's keep going on. So it actually came up with a full report here for me. All right, so it found the Zor key. Cool, that's the same one that we found. This is interesting. I'll have to look into this, but it looks like where, oh, you know what? This is funny. So I wonder, okay, so either it's hallucinating or the binary changed from when I looked at it earlier today, because it wasn't calling PHP scripts. So we're actually gonna see here. And I guess, there's Zord, so I can't just like raw grep them, but I'll have to dig into that. So it even looked at the files alongside of it. That's interesting. Not really what I wanted. Allegedly looks at Exodus wallets. I haven't seen that. All right. If this is true, then I am probably wrong in my assessment of probably DPRK. Now, it's possible it's hallucinating, but allegedly it's looking at the system locale, looking for basically checking to make sure that it is not in Russia or one of the Commonwealth of Independent States. So that's Kazakhstan, Ukraine. This must be Armenia. I don't remember what BEBY is off the top of my head. I don't remember. Is that, I don't know. Which country is that? Oh, Belarus. So this is commonly done by malware from Russia and allied countries, where they will basically make sure that they do not do anything in those if your locale is those countries. It says common tactic to avoid law enforcement, but I think it's avoiding friendly fire. Now we'll have to dig in. We'll dig in a little bit to find out if this is true. It may be a hallucination, but I think it's probably correct. Let's see. Okay, so All right, so found the system, found the decryption function, followed some pointers, and then found this key. Interesting. Okay, so here is the R2 command line that I should be able to do to verify that this actually happened. Oh. AA PDF at PX at. Oh. So here's the exact commands that you can run. So find the reference from main. All right, so we got to analyze it, which basically loads all the functions. I don't think that worked. So let's see, if we see the raw bytes, does that work? Nope, we're not in the right place yet. One of the tricky parts for Risen, which is typically what I use, versus Radar 2, which Gemini knows more about, is the way that it handles addresses can be different. And I'm not an expert at either, to be quite honest. Oh, okay. It was just that P command that screwed everything up, but that still seems strange. All right, so going on, we got, let's see, we got to the PX where we see the encrypted garbage, and now, oh. We have the XOR key, and we can decrypt it allegedly. I've never done XOR in here. All right, I didn't get anything. So it says to me, I'm in the wrong place. I'm looking at the wrong data. All right. Well, I'm out of time for the moment, but hopefully this was interesting. I'm going to look at to see if there's anything that came up from the nuclei scan. I wasn't expecting anything, but let's see what's coming up here. Let's see, a bunch of stuff about the registration date, the domain. So registered on the 13th. Not that exciting. Something interesting happening on port 4040. I don't know what that is. It even has SPF records. Look at that. How fancy. But yeah, didn't find anything interesting. I didn't think it would. But so that is all for the presentation today. I think following up, I do want to dig into, after this, I'm going to dig into the character, into the locale checks, because that could more likely, instead of DPRK, it could more likely be a criminal organization allied with, Russia or somewhere in the Commonwealth of Independent States. So, yeah, I'll take a look at that. Of course, it could be, somebody just trying to, false flag. Unlikely, but so yeah, given the endpoints, and we didn't really look at the IP that it exfiltrated to, but I did want to keep this to about 40 minutes. So we'll do more later. There's always malware up around. So thank you everybody for joining, and I'll see you later.